I am 94 years old.
My hands don't work the way they used to. This morning, it took me 4 minutes to button a shirt. But my memory works fine. Too fine sometimes. Because I remember the exact afternoon I threw my whole life away, and I didn't even feel it happen. I have money now. A house too big for one man. A name, people say, with respect. And I would give every bit of it to sit on a porch for 10 minutes with a woman who's been gone 11 years. Give me a few minutes. Let me tell you the things I ignored so they don't cost you what they cost me. When you're young, nobody tells you that time doesn't feel like it's passing. That's the trick of it. It doesn't feel like anything at all. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you sleep. You do it 1,000 times. And then one day you look in the mirror and a stranger with your father's face is looking back. I grew up in a town so small it didn't make the maps. My father laid brick until his knuckles swelled to twice their size. I still remember him soaking his hands in a basin of warm water every night, not saying a word. My mother counted coins at the kitchen table on Sunday nights. I'd hear the clink of them through the wall when I was supposed to be asleep. Some nights the clinking stopped early, and I learned what that silence meant. So I made a promise to myself when I was maybe 11 years old. I would never soak my hands in a basin. I would never make that silence. I would be successful. And that promise, the one that was supposed to save me, is the very thing that nearly ruined my whole life. Because here's the first truth I ignored. I thought hard work was the answer. So I worked. I left the house at 4:30 in the morning. My son was 3 when I started that job. By the time I'd blink, he was signing papers for the Army, and I could not have told you the sound of his laugh. I wasn't lazy. Nobody could ever call me lazy, but I finally understand what I was really doing. I was running as fast as I could in a circle. I mistook exhaustion for progress. I thought if I felt tired enough at the end of the day, I must have accomplished something. That's the lie tired men tell themselves. Being busy felt like control, and I was terrified of feeling out of control. So I stayed busy for 40 years. The men who passed me weren't stronger than me. They weren't smarter. They were just brave enough to stop and think, while I was too scared to slow down and see where I was actually going. I was filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom, and I called the emptiness ambition. Now let me tell you about the door. I was 34. It was a Tuesday in October, I remember, because the maples on our street had just turned, and my wife had made a comment that morning about how fast the year had gone. A man I trusted came to me with an offer, a real one. His own money on the table, a handshake, a chance to build something that was mine. And I looked him in the eye and I said no. I told him I had responsibilities. I told him it wasn't the right time. I told him a dozen sensible things. But I'll tell you the truth, I couldn't tell him. I said no because I could not bear the thought of people watching me fail. That's the part nobody admits. We don't avoid risk to protect our money. We avoid it to protect our pride. The fear of looking foolish has ended more dreams than failure ever has. That man built something you would recognize. I watched it grow from across town, and every time I passed his building, I told myself I'd made the wise choice. I wasn't being wise, I was being afraid, and I'd dressed the fear up in a nicer coat and called it caution. Here's what I know now. Fear doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as common sense. And by the time you realize the difference, the door is already closed. But I told you there was a twist. And this is the part I've never said out loud to anyone. 20 years after I turned that man down, I finally got my chance. In my 50s, I built the success I'd wanted my whole life. The money came. The respect came. Everything I'd promised that 11-year-old boy I delivered. And I felt nothing. I stood in my new office on the top floor, looking out over the whole town, and I waited for the feeling. The one I'd been chasing since I was a child. It never came. That was the day I understood the cruelest thing about the finish line. There isn't one. You spend your whole life believing there's a moment waiting for you, a moment where you'll finally arrive, finally exhale, finally be enough. But you get there, and the ground just keeps moving. The goal you bled for becomes ordinary by the time you reach it, and your eyes are already searching for the next hill. I had climbed the mountain and found nothing at the top but a view of taller mountains. And while I was climbing, I missed the only thing that was ever real. Her. My wife. She used to ask me to sit on the porch with her in the evenings. Nothing special. Just the two of us, and 2 cups of coffee going cold. I always said the same thing. In a minute. I always had one more call, one more letter, one more small, important nothing. I want you to understand she never begged. She'd just nod and take her coffee out to the porch alone, and I'd hear the screen door tap shut behind her. That sound. I hear it in my sleep now. The screen door tapping shut. For 30 years, she sat on that porch, saving a chair for me. And I was always going to sit in it tomorrow. She got sick in the spring. It moved faster than anyone expected. And near the end, when she could barely speak, she squeezed my hand and she said, "You finally have time to sit with me now." She wasn't angry. That was the worst part. There was no bitterness in her at all. Just the smallest, gentlest question underneath the words. Why did it take this? She passed on a Thursday. And that evening, I went out to the porch and I sat in my chair for the first time in 30 years. And her chair was empty. I sat there until the sky went black, and I finally understood the truth I'd spent a lifetime outrunning. Everything I was chasing would have waited. She could not. The world tells you to seize your dream, and it's not wrong. But it forgets to mention that people are not milestones. They don't stay put while you get around to them. Every in a minute is a withdrawal from an account you cannot see the balance of. I had treated The most patient love of my life, like it was the one thing that would always be there. It was the one thing that wasn't. So I changed. Slowly. Clumsily. An old man learning to live for the first time. I started saying yes to things that frightened me, just to feel my heart move again. I started sitting on that porch every single evening, in my chair, with her empty one beside me. And in that silence, I finally learned to listen to what she'd been telling me for 30 years. Let me give you what she gave me, plainly, so you don't have to buy it at the price I paid. Busyness is the laziest form of hard work because it lets you avoid the one hard question, am I even moving in the right direction? Fear will never come to you looking like fear. It will come dressed as patience, as timing, as being responsible. Learn its face. And this one, above all, no achievement has ever hugged anyone back. You cannot be held by a bank account. You cannot grow old beside a title. You are so much younger than I am. You still have what I would trade all of it for. You have time. And you have people who are, right now, quietly saving a chair for you. I am 94 years old. When I look back, I don't see the buildings I put my name on. I don't see the money. I couldn't tell you the number in the bank if you asked me. I see a wooden porch, 2 cups of coffee, and 30 years of a chair I refused to sit in until it was empty. That's the whole of it. That's what a life comes down to in the end. Not the mountains you climbed, the chairs you sat in, and the ones you didn't. I can't go back. That door's shut. The way all of them eventually are. But you're still reading this, which means yours isn't. Somewhere in your life tonight, there is a screen door about to tap shut, and someone on the other side of it, hoping today is the day you finally come out and sit down. Don't say in a minute. Go now, before the chair's empty.